One of the great constants of cinema has long been Michael Caine. His voice is unmistakable, his presence quietly magnetic. Never to shout his way through a role, he let stillness do the work. From the cold grit of Get Carter through to the warmth of the Cider House Rules, his career became a study in endurance and grace. Invited to name his 7 favorite films of all time, Caine didn't go for what was fashionable or critically safe. He chose the stories that built him, those that shaped how he saw acting, fame, and the fragile humanity that lies behind it. These are the 7 films that Michael Caine says changed everything. Number 1, Lawrence of Arabia. The first on Caine's list is Lawrence of Arabia, the one that taught him what cinema could do beyond the telling of stories. He saw it back in 1962, an unknown then, sitting in the dark as the desert swallowed the screen. Peter O'Toole's quiet command showed him charisma wasn't loud. It was control. It was silence full of meaning. That lesson never left him. As Caine would later say, the movie felt like watching acting become landscape. Every gesture in the heat, every pause before a decision seemed chiseled out of time. The way O'Toole barely moved yet filled the frame revealed something Caine had never been taught: the strength inside restraint. He didn't perform emotion. He waited for it to come. That was an idea he carried through the hungry years that followed, when auditions went nowhere and confidence was scarce. The image of O'Toole alone in the desert reminded him that stillness could be its own rebellion. You didn't have to shout to be seen. You only had to be present. The film gave him permission to underplay, to trust quiet over noise. Decades later, the echo of that influence is unmistakable: the same patience, the same gravity born from silence. Watching Lawrence of Arabia again, Caine said, finally understood why it endured. It isn't about conquest, it's about endurance. For him, the film was more than inspiration, it was instruction. A reminder that sometimes the loudest voice in cinema is the one that never raises. Number 2, The Third Man. Caine describes The Third Man as a film that lived in the shadows. Watching it as a young actor, he realized that moral certainty was an illusion, that heroes and villains could share the same face. Orson Welles' charm and menace merge into something unforgettable. That duality became, for Caine, the key to real acting. Never judge the character, just understand him. He first saw The Third Man when he was working night shifts between auditions. The crumbling streets of Vienna, that haunting zither score, the tilted frames all taught him that beauty could coexist with decay. The film's moral fog became a metaphor for life as an actor. Uncertain, improvisational, always walking between right and wrong. Every face in that film conceals something. He loved how Welles converted charisma into menace, how charm could be made to feel like a weapon. That was the revelation that colored Caine's later portrayals of morally ambiguous men, from the icy efficiency of Get Carter to the world-weary intelligence of a quiet American. He said once, "The Third Man taught me that the camera doesn't want purity. It wants conflict. That's where the humanity hides." Decades on, Caine was still invoking Carol Reed's direction as a lesson in what not to show. The beauty of suggestion, the look held a second too long. The light that falls away just before the truth arrives became part of his DNA. The Third Man showed me that mystery isn't what you hide, it's what you allow to linger, he said. For Caine, the film endures because it resists resolution. Like its shadows, it never fully leaves you. Number 3, Casablanca. When Caine talks about Casablanca, it isn't the romance he remembers, it's the rhythm, the pauses between words, the heartbreak hiding in restraint. Watching Bogart and Bergman, he knew the truest emotion isn't declared, it is implied. Every line hits like a confession masquerading as control. Caine calls it a masterclass in understatement, the quality that would define his own career. He often said the film taught him how to play the truth beneath the line. He studied Bogart's timing, how he'd pause in advance of every decision, how he let regret flicker just for a second. He never cried, but you felt his tears anyway. That emotional precision became Caine's blueprint. His characters would feel deeply while saying little, leaving the audience to fill the silence. He loved how Casablanca turned sacrifice into dignity, how restraint could make a scene more devastating than any outburst. Caine once called it the film that proved stoicism can break your heart. Its dialogue was elegant, but its power lived in the looks between lines. That taught him that cinema isn't about speaking truths. It's about letting them hang in the air. As his career grew, he carried Bogart's restraint with him. In Educating Rita and The Cider House Rules, you can see that same economy of feeling. The most painful goodbyes are the ones spoken calmly. To Caine, that was the lesson of Casablanca. Real emotion is quiet, and quiet can echo for a lifetime. Number 4, Zulu. For Caine, Zulu is personal. It's the film that made him, but nearly broke him too. Cast against type as a privileged officer, he feared he'd be fired on day one. Instead, he found his confidence. Zulu taught him how to lead with discipline, to hold space without shouting. Every lesson from that set became the foundation for the actor he became. He arrived on set as a working-class Londoner asked to play an aristocrat, something no one in the British film industry thought he could do. Surrounded by veterans, Caine felt like an imposter in pressed khaki. But when cameras rolled, instinct took over. He stood still, hands clasped behind his back, letting the uniform carry the authority he didn't feel. "I learned that confidence can be a costume," he said. Each take was a call for poise under pressure. The great battle scenes, the heat, the precision, the whole trial by fire. The director, Cy Enfield, pushed him hard, showing him that real command came from calm, not noise. Caine absorbed it all. Stillness projects power stronger than a shout. When the film opened, critics hailed his transformation. Overnight, he was not that Cockney lad anymore. He was a leading man. But Caine never forgot the fear of that first day, the panic buried beneath the posture. "You don't conquer nerves," he later said. "You use them as fuel." Zulu didn't just launch his career. It rewired how he saw himself. From that moment on, Michael Caine would never act at authority, but rather be it. Number 5, On the Waterfront. Marlon Brando's On the Waterfront broke Caine's idea of acting forever. He saw vulnerability where he had expected bravado, raw emotion instead of performance. Brando's trembling delivery felt alive, unscripted, and utterly human. Caine said it was the moment he understood that truth is louder than technique. From that film onward, he stopped performing and started existing in every role. Before seeing it, Caine thought great acting was about precision hitting marks, controlling gestures, perfecting diction. But Brando was chaos wrapped in honesty. The slurred words, the trembling hands, the pain that never sought permission to appear it all changed Caine's map of the craft. Brando wasn't playing Terry Malloy. He was him. That's a revelation that sent Caine back to basics listening, reacting, feeling rather than projecting. Much later, when he did Alfie, that same authenticity guided every smirk, every flicker of conscience beneath the swagger. He learned that truth needn't be beautiful. It just had to be real. Brando's performance became the ghost in his creative life, a standard he never tried to surpass, only honor. Caine has often said that On the Waterfront taught him acting wasn't about control, but about surrender. You have to trust in the moment more than yourself. Every time Caine steps in front of a camera, that ghost returns the reminder that authenticity is the hardest trick to fake. Brando showed him that perfection is hollow without truth. And Caine spent the rest of his career chasing that truth. Number 6, The Godfather. When Caine first saw The Godfather, he said it turned crime into poetry. What struck him wasn't the violence, it was the dignity, the stillness, the way power moved quietly through a room. He saw how Al Pacino could command the screen without moving a muscle. It was precision masquerading as calm. That, he said, is acting at its highest level. What really fascinated Caine was the discipline of the film, how Coppola could allow the camera to stay with a scene in silence, how emotion would not race to fill the space. Every scene breathed like a confession, not a performance. He was further mesmerized by Pacino's transition from an innocent soldier to Cold Dawn. That slow burn taught him that transformation on film doesn't require fire. It requires control. Caine oft said the film showed him how authority is built from quiet confidence. There was no shouting, no forced emotion, just gravity earned through restraint. He studied Pacino's eyes the way they spoke volumes in a whisper. It became a lesson he carried into his own roles. The calm before confrontation, the pause that makes a line land. The themes of loyalty and loss resonated deeply within him. Caine knew power without conscience is tragedy waiting to happen. It showed me that monsters aren't born, he once said. They're refined. The lessons of The Godfather weren't about crime. They were about human frailty disguising itself as strength. For Michael Caine, the film proved a truism. Great acting is less about speech, more about silence the moment when you let truth speak for you. Number 7, The Quiet American. Caine's final choice is deeply personal, his own film, The Quiet American. It's the role that brought him full circle, reminding him of why he began. As Thomas Fowler, he played a man torn between love and conscience, comfort and guilt. Caine once said, "It wasn't acting, it was remembering." The performance earned acclaim, but for him, it was closure. He was drawn to the story's moral ambiguity, its portrait of a world where every choice cost something. Playing Fowler, Caine faced his own reflections, age, regret, the quiet fear of irrelevance. It was a film about watching history change while pretending you're unchanged. The role didn't require transformation. It required truth. He'd lived enough to understand the character's exhaustion. Critics called it a career revival. To Caine, it was a reckoning. He treated each line like a confession, every silence like a memory he couldn't escape. In those moments, the line between actor and man vanished. The camera wasn't recording a performance, it was witnessing a life. He later said Fowler was the character he understood most because he could no longer pretend to be young. Acting used to be about imagination, he reflected. Now it's about memory. That honesty defined his later years, a man no longer performing for the world, but speaking quietly to it. For Michael Caine, The Quiet American wasn't just a film. It was a farewell note to the version of himself who first entered cinema with something to prove and found peace. At the end, Caine's list isn't just about movies. It's about moments when an image, a voice, or a silence shifts a life. Each film he named carried a lesson: stillness, endurance, doubt, grace. Together, they told the story of a man who learned to listen more than speak, to act less and feel more. Cinema gave Michael Caine everything: fame, meaning, and the gift of reflection. Still, after all these years, his reverence for the art remains humble. He still speaks of film like a student, curious, grateful, always learning. For Michael Caine, greatness is not how loud a story is told, but how long it lingers after the credits fade. Which movie resonated most with you? Please share your thoughts and subscribe for more film stories.